Okay, this question keeps popping up on my Snapchat. So if you're not following my Snapchat, BrianK019, I open it up for live Q&As. We can ask me questions back and forth. But about emotional eating, it seems to be something that just keeps popping up the last 2 weeks or so. So I'm going to do a full video and expand on it. Okay, I'm going to get into it just because a lot of people have asked me either a variation of how do I fix emotional eating or how did I fix my relationship with food. So I'm going to give you a little bit of background into my story. And what I did and what works for me. Now, I, at the minute, have a very, very healthy relationship with food. A lot of it is stemmed from the fact that now I also don't care how I look. I have no plans to compete. If I ever compete again, it's going to be, I've decided to jump in last minute because I've been lean for something else. But as of now, I don't let people's opinions of how I look dictate how I feel in any way, shape or form. And the way I look is a byproduct of the way I live. So right now, that's why my relationship is better with food. But in the past, I've had really, really poor relationships with food, and I did a video about this a while back, and how I read a book called The Power of Habit, which really, really helped make me understand what was happening with me, and why I was emotionally eating, what was triggering me to emotionally eat. There's lots of different ways. This same thing works for things like smoking, but it most commonly kind of seems to factor itself into people turning to food as a comfort for some reason. So it really depends on your circumstance. First thing, the advice I would give is find the trigger. The book that I read was called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg, and he talks about we've got a cue trigger reward system where first we'll get a cue for something, where something will happen, or somebody will say something. So if you're an emotional eater, when people speak down to you, you'll get the cue where someone will speak down to you. The trigger will be, oh, I feel really shit, and then the reward will be you turn to food for it. I had my relationship with food was down to boredom. I found that for years, I always had this sense of boredom, and I would turn to food when I get bored. It manifested itself into then when I was at a point in my life, particularly when I was teaching first, and I was living away from home, and I was living in London, and I was really unhappy with my lifestyle and my life at the time. I remember I used to turn to emotional eating on a Sunday night because I had to go to work on a Monday morning, because I hated my first job. I fucking hated it. So much to the point that it was one of those jobs that, and I always tell people this if they don't like what they're doing, where you'd go into work in the morning and you'd want to get like hit by a car. You didn't want to get fucking killed, but you wanted to be like nipped so you can go home and fucking watch Netflix or chill for the day, you know. And that's where I was in my first job. I fucking hated it so much, and I was miserable in it. And I used to find that every Friday it was like somebody had given me a fucking ecstasy tablet, because I was like, yes, that's the furthest away I'm going to be from work. And then come Sunday evening, I used to get these massive Sunday blues, because I used to have to go to work on the Monday morning. So I used to turn to food. So I used to, every Sunday night, I used to binge on 3,000-4,000 calories worth of food. The only reason I was able to stay in shape was because I used to train so hard the next week, because I knew it was going to happen every Sunday. And when I started to realize that this was a pattern that was occurring, and when I quit my job and left it, that stopped. It literally, an unintentional removal of the trigger. I didn't realize that it was my horrible feeling towards my job was leading me to emotionally eat on the Sunday, every single Sunday. And I would eat to the point that I was nearly sick, you know, where I couldn't eat anymore. My stomach was so full, and then you felt bad about yourself, and you were shouting at yourself in your head going, why the fuck did you do that? You feel shit now, that was stupid. And then you used to try and that, just like out training on a Monday and a Tuesday, trying to get yourself back to balance, which is a horrible way to live your life. But just to give you a background, that was my trigger, that was my cue, that was the thing that set me off. So what I would recommend to anybody that has an emotional eating disorder in any way, shape or form, or an unhealthy relationship with food, where you're eating to the point of where you feel sick and you just can't stop it, find out what's causing it. There's something in your life that's causing that trigger. Find the trigger and then fucking remove it like a cancer from your body. You know, if it's a person, if you find, because you'll see patterns, you know, it's the same as the success leaves clues, patterns, all of these things that you end up finding about yourself will leave clues. You'll find that after you talk to somebody, you will feel in a certain emotional state. Because there's two types of people in life. There's people you'll talk to in life and you'll feel amazing after talking to them. You'll come out and you'll be more energetic and be like, yeah, that was fucking amazing, I can do anything. And you'll have other people where you're like, oh yeah, maybe they are right, yeah, maybe I am shit. You know, they're the two types of people. If it's a person that's making you feel this way, you gotta fucking chop them. It doesn't matter who they are, whether they're a family, whether they're a boyfriend, whether they're a girlfriend, a husband, a wife, they need to be cut out of your life. Or else you need to completely change the way you look and perceive their words towards you. Because if it's putting you into a state where you're turning to food as an emotional trigger, you got to remove it. You either got to remove them from your life or remove the way you see it. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. You have full control of your thought process, and you have full control on what you let get into your head, what you let get into your heart, what you let get into you. You have control of that. You know, there's a reason when I had all these nasty comments and stuff last week, and I can't mention the company because I'm not allowed to mention them anymore. I had all these nasty comments last week where it washes straight over me. It doesn't fucking matter. I don't care what Johnny Keyboard has to say. It's irrelevant to me, you know? Like, it's one of those things, you can't give those words weight. And if you know there's somebody, doesn't matter who it is, whether it's your mum, your dad, your brother, your sister, your husband, your wife, and they're making you feel bad about yourself and making you turn to food, you've got to give their words less weight, or you got to cut them, you know? In a lot of cases where I find it tends to be people, it tends to be relationships, or it tends to be jobs. It happened to me in the job where I hated my job so much. That was how I dealt with it. It went to a mild form of an eating disorder where I was turning to food to try and forget and suspend my reality because I wasn't happy with my reality. The irony of that is none of that happens now. You know, I have no issue with food now because I love my life. I love my relationships with people. I love exactly what I have. I wouldn't change a thing. You know, I absolutely love what I have. And as a result, I don't have those negative things towards eating. I did a video about 6 or 7 weeks ago when I was going through a bit of a hard time with in a relationship, in a personal relationship with somebody that was pretty close to me, and I ended up binge eating one day, and that hadn't happened to me in 6 months before that, you know. So it shows how your body will react. Find the trigger. I realized, I talked to my head trainer Paul and we discussed it, and he was like, geez, you haven't done that in fucking long time. And then we reined it back and we were able to figure out what it came from, you know. So sometimes having people to talk to will help, and try and pull out what's the theme? What's the pattern? Is it the same time of day every week? Is it the same person you speak to and that you're finding that you're turning to emotional food? Is it that you're scrolling through Instagram or Facebook, seeing all these fitness models and bikini girls and be like, oh, I fucking feel horrible, and then you're eating shit food? You know, is that what's doing it? Because if it is, fucking chop it. You know, either delete your fucking Instagram or unfucking follow everybody that's on it. Because if they're not supporting you in a better version of you and becoming a happier version of you that doesn't have an issue with food, then you gotta fucking chop them. You know, I say this all the time. Thoughts become things. The people you follow and the people that, the shit that they're putting out there are like, oh, I'm fucking 3% body fat. This is amazing. Life is class. And they're making you feel bad. Fucking unfollow them. You know, that's not going to help you. You know, you got to try and fix your relationship with food. If that's what's stopping you and you're feeling bad after scrolling through your phone, then that's what's causing it, you know? So find the trigger, find cause, find wherever it's coming from. Is it coming from a relationship? Is it coming from a job? Is it coming from social media? Is it coming from boredom? Find what's causing it and then cut it out of your life. And I promise you'll be so much better for it. So I hope this video helps. Please like and share the page. I'll be commenting and replying for the next 24 hours.